Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Monday morning Board of Assessors meeting. Gary. Um, First on the agenda is we have to approve the last Board of Assessors meeting minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I wanted to put on here, I mentioned, I haven't seen you guys in a while, but the last time I said that I was gonna go to the assessor school, it was kind of a quick setup. I wasn't sure, if I could get into the class that I wanted, so I decided to just go the whole week to get all the credits that I needed. Little did I know that when everything was said and done, I'm still short one credit. But I know it was, well, because the use PAP course that I took is a 2-day course, but they only consider a 1-day course.
Will a meeting, like a clerk's meeting or something give you that?
The Berkshire County Assessors Association, I think we're gonna try for 3 credits. I'll talk about that too, not today, the closer we get to it. Hi, Gary.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late, but their power washroom.
Yeah, it's tough for parking out there.
Harder to get in, actually.
Yeah.
So Gary, they approved the minutes.
Oh,
Are you
very
okay?
good. Nice
Yeah.
job.
The world goes on.
And I'm talking about,
It's irreplaceable.
school. It wasn't at UMass this year. It was in Southbridge
Yeah.
at the Wellsworth Hotel.
The what?
Wellsworth Hotel.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
In Southbridge. I mean, I didn't have a chance to really go around the town too much, but I was there from Monday through Thursday. I took the use PAP course for my credits. But I did want to give you an update. We did have, the DOR was there at the end of the week, and they were giving us, it was mainly about income and expense statements, and we had a real estate attorney for real estate law, which brought about a whole different bunch of questions as well. But there were 3 things that I wanted to mention to you guys that I think will be impacting us in the future, and probably like the very near future, is the first one, and I'm sure you've heard about it, is the accessory dwelling, the ADUs. That did get put, that is now legal. So as of February 2nd of next year, supposedly we're supposed to have, if there's any restrictions, they're supposed to be in place by then. I mean, there's no denial of this. I mean, they were talking there that, this theoretically is a change in ours from, everybody becoming a 2-family, parcel, if need be, I guess. I mean, up to 926 square foot building is now going to be allowed on every single family parcel.
It's half the square footage of your home, or 900 square feet or
Right.
whatever's less.
And I had mentioned it to Mike, and he said that it's on the agenda for the planning board. I don't know if they did.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So just to get clarification, so other towns have already had the ADUs. So this is a state thing, or is this something that the town of
Statewide.
Stockbridge?
No, it's
Statewide.
Yeah, to help with the lack of affordable housing.
And the tiny.
It can be
homes, too.
inside the house, it can be a bump out addition, or a separate, could be a garage with a unit up above, or I guess, technical tiny house,
Yeah.
that's what you want to use as a term. Obviously, it still needs to have a sewer connection, go through, but do you know if they're going to be setting up any other restrictions, Gary, on that?
Well, I think locally you can do some. And
Okay.
so we've got a subcommittee that's working on
All right,
that. And the other thing is, I think it has to be at least 900 square feet.
I think so too. Now, I thought I had read something in there that it can't be rented for short term.
You can't restrict it, it said.
Oh, okay. Because they were also talking, people were just like, oh, great, this is, now a verbo thing and short-term rentals and, automatically. Well, that, I guess you can't stop that. It's not the intent of it,
Right.
but that's going to happen. But I mean, this is a way of having possibly, parents being able to have their children to live close by and have a home. So, I mean, there are pros and cons. our role in it really is just to pick up whatever is done. Obviously, if there's a building permit that is issued for indoor work or outdoor, we're going to be there to. What it's going to do though is it will change a lot of our 101 codes to 109s, which are two houses on one lot. So I bet the state is going to see a huge change in their LA4 for the parcel counts. I mean, it's again, valuation is valuation. So we're going to just, value it by style. I guess if you're doing a separate unit, it's still going to be, well, what did you just put, a mini cape on your property? Or is it a garage with an apartment above? I mean, we can pick those up now. So I don't think it's anything that we have to make any changes in our system to, but I think it's more on the building side, the permitting side of it. And correct me if I'm wrong here, you don't need a special permit either.
I would not. I wouldn't.
I don't think so, but I mean, we just heard about it Tuesday, so.
Yeah, when we were at school a couple weeks ago, they said, yeah, it just got signed into law.
Right.
And I started researching it a little bit more and I saw all the articles that were in the papers and they told us February 2nd was the date that it does go into effect.
And if you have one already, the state's law is going to override.
Yes,
Except for in some, we're waiting for, our town council to get back to us, but there are certain things that we can do for local.
okay. Now do those have to go to town meeting vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
So anything that takes place would have to be after the date that it's scheduled to go into effect.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, as far as I understand it to be, and, and if you don't do anything, then the state law will be your ADU.
Well, I'll tell you, the hands were going up in that class so fast because I don't think people at that point knew it had gone in and it had been put into law.
I think
state
it's
level.
going to be a lot for Tri-Town Health because people will be asking, do I have the septic capacity?
Right.
And repairs or additions and it's not going to be cheap.
Absolutely not.
And I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming you still have to follow, your side setbacks and all those pieces. So it isn't like you can just put one in. It has to be able to fit within,
Yes.
the code.
Right. I mean, if your
And the bylaws.
parcel pointer is right here, I don't think you can go right up to it.
Right.
I mean, there still has to be some type of zoning in there. I'm going to try to get our local, the BCAA, when we have our meeting in the fall, our big meeting that we're going to have, the 100th anniversary, call it what you will, celebration. It's still going to be a business meeting to mention this and maybe get a feel for what other communities are doing or getting in place before that date hits. Because I can imagine if there was someone coming in for a building permit and they knew of this, they could possibly come in on February 1st and say, okay, you can't deny this, whether there are regulations in place or not. So that's what I was wondering. They had mentioned a lot of towns were going to a special town meeting between now and February to have that done.
So like the town of Great Barrington already allows ADUs. And also I think the town of Great Barrington allows a second dwelling on the same premise. So they're very flexible down there. I think if Stockbridge has questions about the way Great Barrington implemented the ADUs, I think they wrote up all their own rules. Let's just say
Right.
that.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I get the intent of it and I hope that's really what it's mainly used for, but.
I mean, I think in general, a lot of the outbuildings, as far as valuation goes, are sort of conservative. So I have a feeling that adding ADUs into these existing outbuildings
Yeah.
is going to cost a lot. Or it's going to
Yeah,
cost
I wouldn't-
reassessment of these.
And I wouldn't be surprised if our value, not just ours, Vision, but Patriots and RRC and all the other ones out there are probably gonna, when they do their updates, even without the towns asking, put in something specific for that. Because again, is someone gonna build a little mini modern contemporary? Are they gonna build a little mini ranch? I mean, we have to have something in there, maybe specifically for an ADU. I mean, it's so new that I know they're probably thinking about it. So that'll be our role in it, and we'll talk about it more when I hear anything. But it was good to get input from the assessors that were there. They were mostly out at the Cape, and I don't know what kind of restrictions they already have in place. I was really the only one there from I think Pittsfield was there for another course, but I couldn't really pick anyone else's brain because there wasn't a lot of representation from this side of the state.
So
The
do you have any paperwork on the ADU and the law that was passed?
I'll tag it on our email for the meeting.
Yeah, all I was able to find are the articles like that the local papers had done. I haven't seen the actual, there hasn't,
The draft of the actual.
okay, because there's no IGR yet in place or there might have been a bulletin, but not, because I try to actually look up exactly. Have you been able to find the exact law?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, if you could send that to me.
There's a lot of like money for public housing places and grants all through the beginning, and then towards the end was the ADUs, the tiny homes, and
Okay, great. Yeah, that'd be good to look at. The other two things was the RMV and all their wonderful wisdom are, and again, this is not law yet, but they're contemplating, and I don't know how much it'll affect Stockbridge, but they're looking at forcing the communities or allowing the communities to value people's vehicles where their registrations have been revoked or for any reason the registration has been canceled. They typically, you don't assess that. I mean, we don't even know it. How would we know that has happened? But according to the DOR, there's like 70,000 annual licenses and registrations that are revoked. And talk about hands going up in the audience, like what in the world is this going to do for us for personal property? Do we get a commitment list on these? And another thing is, if for some reason at the first of the year, they're taken off of that first commitment and they're kind of lingering out there as an unregistered vehicle. If they register that vehicle after we pick them up for personal property, we have to do an abatement and it comes out of the overlay account. Which means having to up your overlay account to account for motor vehicle now. We're hoping this doesn't pass. I haven't heard anything from the local boards on how they feel about this, but I guess they have until the end of the year to make that decision. And another thing came up too, is if it's a personal property bill, you can't lien a personal property bill. So there'll be probably a lot of write-offs
collectibles and
on those. And you also you have to redact that from your commitment list because the addresses for motor vehicle are not allowed or open to the public because of that Rebecca Schaefer law. So we can't tell people we can't even point them to the motor vehicle list on someone's address. So all the personal property bills that are picked up from whatever imaginary list is out there, because I've never seen it, they would have to start sending that to us and we would have to value them as personal property and keep track of which ones come off. Do they come in automatically and file, or do they come in and file an abatement, or do we automatically do an administrative abatement? It's just a mess.
So
I don't know why they're doing this.
So I think what
but-
they're trying to do is they're trying to get everybody to get plate return receipts and turn into plates.
Mhm.
So you're going to have a list of everybody that is currently registered and everybody that is like revoked status, but
Expired.
but
Right.
not did a plate return receipts.
And I wonder how many would be in Stockbridge?
There's
Probably not
Probably
many.
not a lot.
I know up my way where I come from, there's probably thousands. I'm not even kidding. I mean, there's
So,
a whole bunch. That yours.
so I think, yeah, I think they're probably.
I know there were
trying to-
clerks there that were freaking out. Let's just put it that way.
under motor vehicle though, why drag it over to personal property?
Well, I think motor vehicles are considered personal property.
They are, yeah. So the moment that they're in your garage or on your property and you're not paying something on them, then, and not, and people will have, there are people that collect cars and they have them registered, but they take them off. Tammy does a ton of abatements on stuff like that, but.
I'm surprised they don't. I'm surprised this hasn't followed to boats. Because quite frankly,
Yeah, well, there is
boats are registered.
excise, but we don't do it.
What's that?
We don't do boat. Do you do boat excise?
No, well, the thing is, like, that's a different registry system, but the bottom line is that you have to register your boat with the.
Yeah,
with
well, your
state.
trailers too.
Well, they get the trailers on the,
That's
off
true.
the auto, but they're not getting everybody's
Right.
boats. So I think this would be a huge thing for the coastal
Yeah,
towns.
well, I think this is.
Yeah, or lake communities or
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, most of the people that were there were from the Cape, so they were just like, what is
Yeah.
this? And I was just like, how many can there really be here? If we had to do a few, I think we could take care of it. My concern was, do we have to pay a service to get that data? Like an Art Jones or something, if the motor vehicle, if RMV wants this, then they should provide us with a list at the beginning of the year, like right around our assessment date, because we can't assess personal property when we're trying to get our tax rate set. That was another thing that came up. How do you go about taxing this on your assessment cycle? We would have to have that list prior to January 1 and pick it up. We can't just pick up willy-nilly whenever we want. There is a cycle that's in place. A lot of weird stuff with it. I don't think it's personally going to pass. They didn't think it was at the DOR because they're kind of their own entity. It might. I mean, that was the second thing. The third one, which I think is really good, is the increase in it's called the Hero Act. Yeah, and it would increase the local 10% veteran amounts that we have. It would double it. And any of these changes would have to be put in place because right now it's 400, so we're bringing it to 800.
And you have to adopt.
You do have to, it's a 22I and a 22J. You don't have to do anything with this now. Anything like this has to go through town meeting. So I mean, we can put it on the agenda at the beginning of the year. I already have had 2 people call that don't live here, just wondering if we are gonna put this through. And they must represent, veteran organizations and things like that. That was really it as far as the things that I thought was concerning for us. That this is brand new. That went through already, but again, it has to go through a local vote to have that increase. And any increase, if it's a $400 increase, we will not get reimbursed for that. We will eat that through the overlay.
Yeah.
So there's a potential that our overlay, again, you guys always pay close attention to it, but if this were to be enacted and the thing with the personal property for RMV, we'll have to look at the overlay a lot closer next year as well to possibly account if you want this to go through for those particular things. Again, I don't think it's a huge amount, but you don't want to be short either.
Mike, you might want to just ask Mike if they're anticipating having a special town meeting for any reason. Because maybe.
Isn't there a special town meeting coming up? I thought there was.
Well, it seems to me like there is one. I just don't know if.
I thought there was one in October. I'll double check though.
Well, you might not be able to get it on there if it's that quick.
This won't go into effect until next year anyway.
Okay. We talking about the ADU?
No, that's already in effect. But that, I did mention to him, getting back to the ADU, I did mention when I got back, first day I got back from school, because I couldn't stop thinking about it, was when they mentioned that February 2nd date next year, do we have to have things in place, like call a town meeting before then? And he didn't seem to think so. That like it could be done at our regular town meeting, even once that ADU law goes into effect.
But I think you're right. Between the 2-1 or 2 date and then the town or town meeting, we might have a whole bunch of tiny house scenarios and ADU scenarios that
people are paying attention to this. There have been so many article after article about the impact of something like this, where it's very unusual that the state enforces this. This is something that bypasses, local law unless you put in some type of, restrictions of some point. And I don't know how restrictive those restrictions can be. So it also might be getting, and I'm sure planning board is checking with Donna and town council on
Yeah,
on
town
that.
council.
I don't want to be like at the point where February 2nd rolls around and and at that point, there's nothing we can do. That's the impression that I got at school, that you have until this date. He didn't seem to think so, but we can talk about that and find
Yeah,
out.
I mean, we're gonna
The
just,
planning board should definitely be on that one.
right, we're gonna assess whatever we're assessing.
Right, I mean.
This is not an.
No. I thought it was very intriguing and I love the fact that, because if any office knows that there's an affordable housing crisis, we do, and where the prices are, I get it. For young people, it's very difficult to get. So I saw that and all I kept thinking is, well, do my friends and family have the resources to build something like this? So it was going through my brain about how helpful this can be, but I also saw it the other way of how this could be taken advantage of by LLCs and places that buy up properties and have the resources to rent these things out. I don't know if you can put restrictions on the rental side of it either. I thought that would be interesting to look into. Because I know the town is tracking, or at least trying to
Right.
track, the short-term rentals.
But I'll play devil's advocate. I mean, so even if you did not, were unable to, only have it to long-term rentals, it would still increase the availability of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it theoretically would
Absolutely.
help. So they might not restrict it to
Yep.
just long-term.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I would love to see a study like next year, like what everyone locally has done and see where this has gone. You know, like the additional restrictions, I mean.
That's some stuff people are gonna get much,
Oh my,
you know?
the she shed business is
Oh,
gonna get
yeah.
real big.
Well, that's what I sort of see more as a problem, as all of a sudden these small little she shed showing up.
Yep. Well, have you seen that? Have you seen that large one that they have in the Home Depot parking lot? I've gone through that one. I'm like, I could live in this thing.
Two-story one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely
That, You've
amazing.
got those, the containers, like off a container
The shipping-
ship.
The shipping container,
Oh,
yep.
sure. Yeah. there's all kinds of
Absolutely.
Scenarios there.
Yeah, I mean, on an assessing thing, I actually found it really, really exciting to see what people are gonna come up with and, well, that's another thing, tons of new growth.
But-
Absolutely.
But I'm sure it'll have to reach, have to follow the stretch codes, which will be difficult.
Yeah, it really does open up so much, but at the same time, I hope, that we can see some study or, spreadsheet that shows what people are doing with it in other communities. Cause I was just sitting there like looking around and there weren't a lot of people that knew that this had gone into place. And I think there was a lot of panic when he said 2 of 25 to get this going. It's not often that you see a state law go through that's this big. I haven't seen anything in a long time. Okay, so that was schooling, what I thought was important enough to bring up. CP1 form is, I do want to mention that our scenario is a little different this year after Cheryl left as far as accounting goes, because a lot of the forms that I have to do are also signed off by the accountant. So at this point, like I finished the CP1 form, it's due September 15th. But once I sign it, there's also a checkbox the accountant has to sign. And there was nothing in the gateway system where you sign off that had anything to do with accounting. So I did go in and I created a separate, Terry and I are the administrator of it, but I really make the passwords and set up the user accounts. And I set her up as the accountant as well. I finished the CP1, checked it off, and I've mentioned it already that there's information that has to be filled in on the accountant side. And it's due on September 15th. So I will follow up again to make sure that gets filled in. I'm not sure at this moment who is filling it in, but if Terry's signing off on it, she should be the one filling that information in. Because right now, we don't have an official accountant doing those types of forms. And now that we're getting closer to
It sort of sounds like Michael should be the one signing. off.
Tax rate.
Terry.
Terry's the one that's doing the reconciliation though, right? Yeah, so technically, well, let's just put it this way. I'm waiting for the DOR to see who's signing what. There's no issue with what I have to do. And when they call, and they will call and say, this is new, it probably sends up a flag on their end because Joe Barberi, our rep, he will call me and say, okay, who's doing your accounting? Who's signing off on this? Who's going to be doing, I don't know if that happens in your town. He wants to know if there's any changes. I haven't talked to him yet. When I submit valuations next month and new growth, there will be, I'm sure there's going to be questions. And I've already made this known. I've mentioned it to Mike and I've mentioned it to Eric and I mentioned it to Terry that we're coming into the cycle now of signing everything. And if there's issues, I can only send it, I'm going to send it to Mike, and be like, they're questioning who signed this. And hopefully that doesn't happen. But if you're signing something on Gateway that you're not familiar with, you shouldn't be signing it.
Right. And if anything should flow up.
So as the administrator, I'm just doing what I was told that I needed to set up an account for her to do that. And because Erica technically should not be signing any of that stuff as the treasurer collector. But I guess it's perfectly legal to have the town clerk, maybe you know better than I do, Brandy, doing the accounting
It's
work.
the only role that can also be the accountant.
Yep, and I think they do that in Richmond, but I'm not 100% positive. He had mentioned that name, that town. So again, I'm just stating, I'm starting to do my forms. I'm starting to fill things in, even though we're not at that point, and I will sign off on it. And she's now in there to sign that, and we will go from there and see if there's any questions. There might be some delays with things as well. Sales analysis, because I went to school and I wasn't anticipating on going to school, it's off by about a week, but I should be done with it by the end of this week. And we'll review it at our next meeting, which we need to talk about at the end of this meeting because of the dates and because of election, or the voting next week. We did receive an appellate tax board, filing for level 3 communications. This is just a formality to send it to us. This is a DOR valuation issue. They send us level 3. It's a utility. So I really don't have to do anything but sit on this, create a folder for it. The DOR is the one, they're questioning the DOR's value. We don't come up with that value. So, and this can happen. This will probably sit for 3 or 4 years while the DOR is figuring it out. I get the value from the DOR and we use that value. So they will make that issue. If there is a change going forward, we may have to do an abatement, but there's nothing, I mean, this just got filed in July, so there's really not much I can do about it.
How do they file in July?
They can file whenever they want because the DOR came up with the value, not us. So it's not in our jurisdiction. They don't have to file. It's a utility company can file with the DOR at any time. This is last year's value. Oh, no, I take it back. They're filing it for this year, fiscal year 2025. So they're already filing it. We haven't even put it on the records
So they're
yet.
filing in advance.
They're filing it in.
So they're doing earlier than. okay.
Yep, they weren't happy with the speculation value that they sent out. Yep, so that'll be, if the DOR does need something from us, which there really isn't anything I can send, I just take their value and I put it in. And frankly, I didn't think it was high, but I'm not level 3 communications LLC.
That's one of the cell companies?
No, it's a utility company. It's, the cell companies that we value those. Yeah, level 3 is, we have level 3. I think it's the telephone and telegraph. That's what that is. So it could be the poles, it could be, because Verizon, we do Verizon Wireless, they do Verizon New England and level 3 and MCI Communications.
Too.
You got that filed as well? Also, they're filing everywhere. DOR also supplies the pipeline valuation, Tennessee Gas Pipeline. I've never seen them complain about that. And we just take those values. The values that we use are the 504s, which we pay our RC to do, the 3, and the wireless, which is Pittsfield Cellular, which is actually Verizon Wireless, and Sprint. I do those. There's actually There were three, there's now two. They keep merging. So that's that one. The next one is, I'm still working on the settlement, to give to you guys for Camp Mackinac. I have the numbers, just haven't been able to dive into it. That case is set for September 23rd, so I really have to get into it. And that will bring up, and we might as well talk about it now, the next meeting, because I'm gonna work on that settlement and bring it to you guys at our next meeting. But next week, we can't meet on, it's a holiday, and I was gonna switch it to Tuesday.
But it's election.
It's election, so I figured we just have it the following week on the 9th. Is that okay?
So the 9th and the 23rd?
Well, that brings up a whole nother thing. The 9th. The 9th is great. The 23rd, I won't be here. So we could have it on the 24th. Or wait until the following week. Completely up to you guys.
24th is fine for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do the 9th and the 24th.
Okay.
And we do have, oh, do we have anyone on? No, we do have to go into executive session for a few things.
Okay. Has anybody else got anything for the open session? All right, I'd entertain a motion then to close the open meeting for today's meeting and then go into executive session per Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to discuss and review 3 ABC forms and extensions for the following exempt properties: Austin Riggs, the Congregation of Marians, and Kripalu. And when when we're finished with that discussion, we will not return to the open meeting and we will just adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.